Sekeres and Price for Monday, July the 24th, 2026. A presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. I'm Blake Price. Alongside me, that is Jeff Paterson riding shotgun for Matt Sekeres, and World Stratego champion Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things. He continues to surprise us. Does Mike Rogerson? How are you?
I'm good. I was the odd man out, though. It sounds like the two of you guys were out on the town last night.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Nate Bargatze last night at Rogers Arena. My first time going to a stadium comedy show. I've done Queenie Theater for Mulaney, that sort of thing, and that's usually where you see the comedians. But
and?
The venue looked good for that purpose, I thought, and the show was absolutely incredible. I was wondering if I was beginning to get Bargatze'd out because I've been a fan for a long time. No, new material. It was
great.
It was spectacular stuff. So who knows when he'll be back around, but well worth it if you cross paths with him. Are you a live comedy show guy? Have you been a part of it?
Yeah, it's been a while. And like you, I've not done a stadium event, but lots of small theaters and clubs and things.
Yeah, it's good. A lot of fun. Mike, you enjoyed it too, I think, didn't you?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah. It was last stadium show I saw there was Shane Gillis, and that led to the JT Miller trade.
What do you mean led to the JT Miller trade?
I was on my way there, and I had to run back here because they had just...
It's like that night.
I remember there were quite a few people in sort of the Canucks sphere that were in that same boat. So when you mentioned that, you're right.
Funny.
It brought back a lot.
There was a local comic, though. They made a Trevor Linden reference. And Bargatze actually did about 10 minutes off the top of like Vancouver material. It was pretty good, including making fun of a gas station in the middle of Cole Harbour. It was very good. So check it out. Our daily poll question today, brought to you by Nation Gear, deals with a birthday boy, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, turning 22 years of age today.
Quickly they grow up, Blake.
What is your view of him in the Canucks organization? We're doing the old prospect versus suspect thing here. And I think there's a bunch of different ways that you can look at this. And you can just look at the player physically and make a judgment on the player's viability in the National Hockey League. But where are you siding right now as you look at Jonathan Lekkerimäki through his 22 years on this planet?
I'd vote prospect only because this is a guy that has scored at every other level. And we're looking at his Hockey DB page here on the live stream. And you go back to the Junior League, 20 goals, 19 goals in the Swedish Hockey League as a teenager. He scored 13 times in 21 games in Abbotsford last year. 13 goals in 21 games.
Pretty good rate.
And yet just hasn't shown it on the regular in the National Hockey League. Just the 5 goals, 37 games played. Not the biggest guy in the world, but we know that he's blessed with a shot that can be goaltenders. Unfortunately, last season cut short by shoulder surgery, and that it makes the 13 goals in 21 games even more impressive. He had a bum wheel and ultimately had to have it surgically repaired. So, that's a concern. Is he fully healthy? I mean, the idea was to get the surgery done in February so that he would have an offseason, that he'd be ready for training camp. This feels, though, now as a 22-year-old, like it's go time. And he's got to show that he can be durable and can stand up to the rigors of the National Hockey League. And if he's able to do that, if he gets a full season in, you'd like to think that his goal-scoring ability would shine through. So I still see him as a prospect, but if you listen closely, you can hear the clock ticking. If we're asking the same questions this time next year, that's a problem. So this feels like a big year for Jonathan Lekkerimäki.
32 goals in 57 AHL games overall. So again, he has shown he can do the AHL thing. Can he do the NHL thing remains to be seen. But it's funny how much patience, you'll give to size, right? Like the Canucks waited so long for Danila Klimovich and never got anything out of him, really, even at the AHL level. Mild promise maybe at the AHL level, but you just keep waiting because size, you'll wait, even though you can't teach skill. We always say this. Can't teach skill at that level. You can't. You can't teach size, period. But you're like, Danila Klimovich was never just going to all of a sudden blossom into an elite scorer. That wasn't going to happen. But he was big, and they were going to wait and see if he could be a decent scorer.
Yeah, that's just, forever in hockey. Yeah. Big guys get so many opportunities to prove that ultimately they just can't get it done. The small guy has to overcome the odds and the obstacles.
If Lekkerimäki was a burner, like if he was an elite skater, I think that changes the equation, doesn't it?
Probably. I'll say this, though. I've seen him now, both the AHL level and the NHL level. I am still a little surprised at how slight he is.
Yep.
And you wonder about a summer here where he's coming off shoulder surgery. Like, what's he been able to do in the weight room to bulk up in any way? So that's a bit of a concern for me. And we'll see what he looks like when he arrives here for training camp. Clearly, he's still part of their rebuild. They want to believe that this is a guy that's going to be scoring lots of goals and big goals for them when they come out on the other side. But again, at 22 now, it feels like he's got to show himself as a regular NHLer this season.
And the frame thing, Jeff, I don't get it because I don't find gaining weight to be very difficult. I'm a pro at it almost at this
part
point.
Part of your skill set?
Yes. Yeah. That's part of my toolbox.
I've found a few myself.
Now at 22, I will be honest. I was a slight guy then too, and I could have eaten everything on the planet and not gained weight. So
now we've seen, right? Like Cole Caulfield, a perfect example.
Yeah.
But Alex DeBrincat, there are lots of other guys that.
But he's not even that short. If he could just add a little bit of girth, he's actually kind of an average NHL size.
But a bit of a one-trick pony with the wrist shot, snapshot.
Yeah.
He's got to round out his game, and there is more to playing in the NHL. I mean, if you're just an absolute sniper, sure. I mean, Bruce Boudreau said that about Nils Höglander. If you're a 40-goal guy, hey, I can live with the defensive mistakes. If you're a 20-goal guy, you got to play in other areas of the ice, and I think the same can be applied here to a player like Lekkerimäki.
But we agree that next year with the Canucks in the position they're at, you give, and again, shoulder health permitting, but you give this guy all sorts of runway, don't you?
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
And just looking at the right side of the Vancouver Canucks, Brock Besser, what is Besser at 29 at this stage of his career? Is he still the top line guy? He and Elias Pettersson haven't shown a ton of chemistry really since the Lotto line days, so I'm not sure that Besser and Pettersson are a thing. Is Linus Karlsson going to get more of a run up top on the depth chart? Should that be Lekkerimäki by default? And then you got Brendan Gallagher, who is brought in for a lot of the intangibles, but still thinks that he's got some gas in his tank coming off a 7-goal season in Montreal last year. So I'm not exactly sure what the role is going to be for a guy like Gallagher, but Lekkerimäki is one of those, even though the game has gone towards speed and skill, I don't want to see him parked on the fourth line of power play time. I do. When you're a 32nd place team, you got nothing to lose. Let the guy play and play in all situations and hopefully show that he can score goals and do more at the National Hockey League level.
Yeah, see if he can do his naturally given thing, and then you can add more roles to it once you figure that out. Welcome to the new Nation gear. We've teamed up with Levelwear to bring in the next era of Nation apparel, starting with the appropriate off-season social club collection. This is gear built for everything that happens in between the games, golf rounds, patio hangs, weekend trips, whatever else the off-season brings. It's good-looking stuff. I am waiting patiently. I've got a box on the way. Every day, check the front stoop. Hopefully today. Premium, versatile, made for fans who know being sports fans is not about seasons. It's the lifestyle. The off-season social club, it's there. Be the first to join. Like, follow, and subscribe to the newsletter, nationgear.ca. we talked Jonathan Lekkerimäki because it's his birthday. But we got ourselves some news, folks. Top story today brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Yellow Dog Spirits, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Wine. Tell me if you've heard this before, but a front office shuffle at the Vancouver Canucks. Out of absolutely nowhere, the Vancouver Canucks announced a change in title and role for Assistant General Manager Cammi Granato, moving her from that seat, AGM, to Senior Amateur Advisor for the club. The timing of this, Jeff, isn't great for the Canucks. People are going to jump to many conclusions here, most notably the budget-conscious conclusion. And I can understand why they're going to be skeptical and think that just happens in a vacuum.
Yeah, it caught me off guard. I think it did. I mean, first of all, we're used to late Friday afternoon. This game Friday morning, heading into a weekend.
But a Friday nonetheless.
But a Friday.
Yes.
And I would think that the Canucks getting close to leading the league in senior advisors now because Jim Rutherford is still front and center on their website. Has kind of been shoved aside, paid to get out of the way, but remains in a senior advisor role and now senior amateur advisor. Yeah, I mean, a couple of things jumped to mind. We already wondered about lack of overall experience in the front office. Daniel and Henrik, Ryan Johnston. Emily Castengay is now like the senior operator and one of really the only holdover now in an assistant GM role. Does this open the door for another hire? Is this, for budget reasons, just going to go unfilled? Richard Seeley comes in, takes over the Abbotsford portfolio and has the AGM title, but I mean, it's a pretty thin front office by NHL standards. It just is, and not long on experience in the current roles that all of these people have. Cammi, obviously highly regarded in hockey circles for her playing days and the transition she made and the trailblazing and, you know, breaking through glass ceilings and all those types of things. And so outside of the press release, you know, don't know a whole lot more, didn't see this coming at this stage. And I guess if they are looking to replace her, like late July, most of the hiring in hockey circles has been done. So you just wonder who else is out there and available if that's a road that they're planning to go down.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They could easily just not, like, I don't think they did this for budgetary reasons, but it can turn into an offshoot of, well, hey.
Well, if you don't replace people.
Right. Like if she wants to take a step back or slim down her role a bit, obviously, and this is full assumption, I'm assuming that comes with the pay downgrade. You generally don't get paid the same amount to do less.
No, an assistant GM job's a pretty high-paying job.
It's a pay downgrade by her own accord. And then they just say, yeah, we're probably good for now, with the front office at the side. Now, they're going to have to we're going to get into this with PJ later on here, but you know, the pro side was under her umbrella. They're going to have to fortify that just a little bit. They've also seen some pro scouts leave, Jack Johnston most notably yesterday, day before. Yep. So there's a body to go in there, but it doesn't have to be at the AGM level.
No, but if you just look at like the pyramid now,
yeah,
Daniel and Henrik obviously name recognition and Hall of Fame playing careers, but I don't think they're involved day to day in the hockey operations. They're co-presidents. They are bigger picture, whether it's the practice facility or other things. They may be involved in some of the conversations, but you know, I think Ryan Johnston is driving the bus here. Well, now you got Emily Castengay, who, coming from the player agent side, has been involved in contracts. And Richard Seeley is new to the organization, although lots of experience at the minor league level. But that's where I come back to, like, we see teams around the NHL with 4, 5, 6 assistant general managers. And right now, by my count, there are 2 here.
And for those that think that it may have been a push, I can only come at this, you know, I've got a long-standing friendship with both Ray and Cammi. Ray loves his job, but I will be blown away if Ray is working that job at the age of 70. He's not going to be one of those older guys in the booth. I think Ray values eventually not only turning down the temperature of his job, but probably just not having one. I think that's probably sometime down the road for
one
Ray.
of those guys. What's better than a job in hockey?
No job in hockey. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And being comfortable in that. So, like, these are people that value their time away from work. Cammie's a devoted mom, and the kids are older now, but as a guy that has older kids too, you never stop the parenting.
Still need some shepherding.
So I fully believe, and we'll give you the quotes here. A couple of quotes are included in the press release. I guess what I'm saying is I actually do believe the quotes. This one first from Ryan Johnston. I'm excited to have Cammi move to the position of senior amateur advisor. Cammi is a quality person who knows a lot about the inner workings of our organization. She has built-in relationships and connections with our amateur staff that will help us continue to do good work in that area. We'll come back to that. And then from Cammi. Quote, after taking some time to reflect on things, I feel this is the perfect time to transition into a new role with the Canucks. I've had some very thoughtful and meaningful discussions with RJ and my family about my position within the organization. Helping on the amateur side is something I am extremely passionate about, and I am thrilled to continue working with our hockey operations department on that front. I have a great confidence in our front office leadership group and love their vision and the direction they are taking with the team. As I said, I take all of that at face value. I know we've come to be skeptical about things on Canucks letterhead, but again, new management group and knowing these people a little bit better than we have maybe some prior groups, I think I do take that all at face value. But again, there's still the question of, do they take advantage of the opportunity given to them to save money? Although, they're going to need to bring someone ahead of pro scouting. Like, that's going to have to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think so. I'm sort of like you. I gloss over press release quotes generally.
Yes.
But it is all we have to work on on this story that broke, an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, as we do the live portion of the pod here. So, I guess at the end of the day, I'm glad that Cammi Granato is still in the organization. She hasn't been punted. This isn't a firing. And I do think that, she has lots still to offer the Vancouver Canucks. So how this role's ultimately going to play out, that's still to be seen. But, yeah, I mean, it goes back to this idea of running an optimal National Hockey League front office. And if you take away an assistant general manager, then do they fill that position? As you said, do they have to go out and find somebody to run the scouting side? Like, their amateur side's done some pretty good work.
I think both sides have. The pro side is the Sherwoods, the Dakotas of the world. I mean, they've contributed on the ice, and then they've flipped the players.
Yep. Yeah, and people want to see more of that, obviously, as they work their way through the rebuild here. And on the amateur side, I mean, time's going to tell on Caleb Malholtra, but, the 2 first-rounders this year, Tom Verlander, we were just talking about Jonathan Lekkerimäki. There's some pieces, certainly. And I think most people would look at the last couple of years and say, hey, of all the areas of the organization, amateur scouting actually can be held up as one area that it looks like they've done some reasonably good work here. So, the fact that Cammi's going to stick around and stay in an advisory capacity there, that seems like good news in all of this. But ultimately, how does it settle? It's a little too soon to know. But, I'll be kind of curious to see about the overall structure of both the amateur and the professional scouting departments.
Both sides are important, but as a rebuilding team, the amateur is the most important because that's ultimately where you're going to be, buttering your bread, if you will, is at the NHL entry draft. Now, you want to acquire more picks by doing what we just talked about, finding that pro guy that has a career season, flipping him for more picks, but those more picks don't matter
if the amateur
side stinks. So, ultimately you need to make sure amateurs is tickety-boo, and then you're not ignoring the pro side, but you do have to accentuate that just a little bit. So it will be intriguing to see if they're able to come up with hires here by the start of training camp. I mean, we're almost 2 full months.
Yeah, and just looking back now, almost full turnover. We talked about Emily Castonguay as the holdover, but Jim Rutherford came in, brought in Patrick Calvin. Remember, Derek Clancy was one of the first hires, if not the first hire. He wasn't here for long. Jim promoted Cammi Granato, gave her that opportunity, brought Emily Castengay along, and now Emily is the only one in that same capacity. So, there's been a ton of roster churn. Obviously, there's been a lot of turnover in the front office as well. So they truly have turned a page at Rogers Arena, and starting from scratch, essentially, a 32nd spot, only one way to go, and that's up.
So top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Neighborhood and Foolish Wine, who have released the Ripple Pinot Noir Rosé. It's a playful pour, easy charm, plenty of personality, as you want with your rosés. Bursting with notes of sweet cherry, red apple, and strawberry, glides across the palate with a crisp, dry finish that keeps you coming back for another sip. Light, lively, refreshing. Ripple is here to make waves all summer long.
I was in Penticton last weekend. In fact, watched the World Cup final at Neighborhood.
Did you?
It was packed, and so
Great
it was good
spot.
to see. Lots of people having some fun there. It was also triathlon weekend in Penticton, so the triathlon, and I wasn't there for. This is the total. Those
Yes.
are totally unrelated.
Unrelated.
Yes. The triathletes, they did their thing. I was at Neighborhood.
And was the triathlon already complete, or were they having like a half a beer because it was the night before?
No, this was Sunday, so
So they were
it had
pounding.
taken
They were
place
done.
Sunday morning. Yeah.
Although I would guess I wouldn't know, but I would guess that after you've completed a triathlon, one beer probably puts you on the floor. You've lost everything else inside.
As I scanned the room, there looked like a couple of people that fit the bill of triathletes.
Yeah?
And there were a lot of people that didn't.
Support staff, families. We'll stay with a little bit of hockey here, and there's Canucks content here as well. We've teased already that the World Juniors could be a little bit more fun for Canucks fans this year. And as expected, the Summer Showcase roster has been announced and is helping to underline that. The two Canucks centers could, Jeff, be center stage, quite literally.
Yeah, I mean, look, Braden Coots, not a surprise, played on the team last year. Certainly a front runner to be part of it all again. As next year's tournament rolls around, I kind of laughed. The Hockey Canada release still had him playing for Seattle in the Western Hockey League. Of course, he'd moved on to Prince Albert, and we think that he's probably destined for Abbotsford as a 19-year-old with the new CHL-NHL agreement. Come to camp, give it its best shot. But I think for me, the best sort of course of action for Braden Coots next season, play in Abbotsford, learn to be a pro, and then get released to play
Still go
for
here,
Canada
for sure. Yes.
at the World
No
Juniors.
matter how well it's going, yeah.
It's going to be tougher for Caleb. We know the World Juniors is generally a 19-year-old tournament. And so first-time guys through the draft, and Braden Coots is an example. He made the team last year in a limited capacity, didn't have a huge role, didn't see a lot of minutes, but great experience for him. And also, I would think, fuels that competitive drive this time around to be one of the main guys, right? Like you go, we're talking about support staff, essentially that's what he was last year, but in uniform. But he has a chance really to be a front liner. So that's a carrot in front of Braden Coots for this coming season for Caleb Malhotra. I think it's going to be a tougher push. But again, when you're the third overall pick in an NHL draft, you got some pedigree, you got name recognition. Who am I to sit here and say that Caleb Malhotra can't make the Canadian national junior team? And this is certainly a good step, getting invited to be a part of the Summer Showcase in Windsor next week.
Well, it's not a super deep center class there at the showcase, but more importantly, it's not a super, as we saw at the draft, like Caleb Malhotra's year.
Right.
It's not super. So are you thinking ahead and saying we should probably have somebody underaged here, like an 18-year-old, so that next year there's somebody that we can lean on? Of course, the class that's coming is a huge center draft coming. So in 2 years, 3 years' time, they're going to be okay. But do you have to put some training wheels on Caleb Malhotra for the next couple of, for this one so that he's ready for next year?
And even if he doesn't make the team, just being in that environment around just look at the list. It's all first-round guys. And he belongs to be on that list. And so good for him. And look, the World Juniors is just eminently more entertaining from a Canucks perspective if you've got a prospect or two. Hope for the best that both of them are repping Canada when the tournament rolls around.
I've been to a few of these, and it's a high level of skill. It's good experience for both of those Canuck prospects. July 26th to 30th in Windsor, so that starts up later on this weekend. Moving on to the other big news. Postmedia's Patrick Johnston joining us later to explain further. But in a sit-down with BC Cabinet Minister Ravi Kahlon, PJ learns there is not only the possibility of the Whitecaps running BC Place, but maybe they could own the whole darn thing. Might seem pie in the sky, but if the acquiring group had that on the table, you'd think that would be a far better investment for whoever wants to buy the team and far easier for them to get borrowing power if you've got that kind of real estate tied up to it, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Fascinating article. And as he said, PJ is going to join us here, so we'll get into a lot of it. But just the idea of one pro sports team owning BC Place, which has been, government held since the day it was built. But if it's not working in its current capacity for the Whitecaps, we know it worked for the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything's got to be on the table here. If the end goal and the end game is to keep the Whitecaps in Vancouver, and I think we all think that that is the way it should be, then why not? Now, I'd be fascinated to know what's going through the mind of Amar Doman and the BC Lions as tenants.
Well, we can bring that up here too, Mike. No surprise. Yeah. People like the aggregators of CFL News, a little bit concerned, and I get that. There is the possibility the Canucks, or the Caps, could entertain a minority ownership from Amar Doman. If Amar was interested, that might be a heavy lift for them, but would ensure a voice in the room for scheduling, etc. But honestly, given the tenuousness of the Caps' existence right now, I genuinely don't think that they want to turn that tenuousness around onto somebody else and threaten the existence of the BC Lions. And maybe that is far too naive a take here, Jeff, but they know what this feels like. I don't think they wish it upon the BC Lions, another historic brand in the area. I think they want both sides to have a healthy existence.
Oh, I would think so too. Now, like any of us, I mean, you put yourself first. So they're looking out for their own best interests. Ultimately, the Lions are 10 game days.
That's it.
And
That's what
some
we've always
walkthroughs
said.
And things. So it's not a heavy lift on the schedule, but game schedule is an issue to the BC Lions. And so you'd certainly have to work with them. But what kind of job could the Whitecaps do as stadium owners on the marketing side and attracting events and concerts and trade shows? And
no more playoff dates in Portland. Maybe you change the turf. I just got back from Portland. I'm doing a bunch of MLS games elsewhere this season. You look at the Portland turf, also artificial turf in Portland. Inexplicably, the Timbers only play there. They could definitely go grass. But it is a great artificial turf. It looks great. It looks like grass. Nobody complains about the artificial turf at Portland. Could you change the turf and sort of eliminate that as a possibility? I know people want grass. That's unlikely to happen. A whole much more investment would be needed. But the other thing is it allows for stadium upscaling and marketing. Now, the management, if they just managed it, they'd be able to get that as well. And of course, naming rights and all that sort of stuff. There's a bunch of this stuff that would be accomplished anyhow with pure management rather than ownership.
But wouldn't that be the first thing if it went into private ownership? Like, I lose sleep. My mind is a bit weird, but I lose sleep over this kind of stuff that 40 plus years and BC Place has never had.
It's negligence. And it's actually, you as a taxpayer should be pissed about this, because that would allow them to make money at BC Place far before this stuff ever came into being. Like, it's actual negligence.
And I get the battle of the telecoms, and there were some conflicts and whatever. Like, just find a way. Like, figure it out. Smart people, get in a room, sort it out. But 40 plus years without a corporate title, like the only major sports stadium in North America that doesn't have naming rights.
Millions of dollars per year left on the table. Inexplicable. So we'll see where this goes. We'll talk about it with PJ coming up, but very, very interesting. And other Whitecaps news as well. And some will think that it's maybe linked, but I don't necessarily see that as the case. Is the first place team in the West, and we'll remind you that's where the Whitecaps currently are on the lookout for a new midfielder. Seb Berhalter is on his way to Middlesbrough in the English Championship all for just a $2 million transfer fee, basically the same as Ali Ahmed's fee, a quarter of Tani Oluwaseyi's fee to Villarreal, and he is a far better player than both of them. But the contract was expiring, Jeff. He was leaving for a free transfer in a matter of months. They needed to do something. I know, and I've seen this take out there from fans in response to a bunch of the tweets here. I would rather have lost the $2 million and had him to win an MLS Cup.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
all those
fair.
other years where this team has been spinning its wheels at this time of the season, if a player walked away, you might be disappointed, maybe he's your favorite player, whatever. But when you're at the top of the table and you've been to the final last year, you're coming back and trying to get it right, to lose such a vital piece is absolutely a kick in the gut here to the team, to the fans. And so that's tough. I understand just the global football schedule. It seems odd that a guy would just up and leave in the middle of July, in the middle of the season. That's the way it works. I know MLS is going to get on the same schedule, so it would make more sense in years to come. But yeah, like this is just disappointing on a lot of levels.
It's just really disappointing. And, you know, there's others too. Stefan Eustachio, who's a lot of people think maybe should come in as a replacement. He's left LAFC. His loan there is expired. He's back at Porto, but they don't want him. So maybe the Whitecaps could do something fun with that for a guy that has name recognition after the World Cup. So that would be a nice fit. But something like that will help salvage the situation for the Whitecaps, because the result on on Wednesday in Seattle, a wild 4-3 loss underscored his importance too. Now, Thomas Muller didn't play in that match, and we're not really sure why. He would help on the pitch, but he's obviously not at full fitness, if not full health. And as good as Ryan Gauld was with 2 goals in that game, he's still not ready to go 90 minutes. He told us that last week himself. So we'll see. Now, from Berhalter's side, and I think at that price, Jeff, if he was going to Barcelona at $2 million, and you'd be like, well, it's not much, but the player really wanted to go. He's set up for,
right.
But he's going to Middlesbrough, a good team in the championship. They came that close to being a Premier League team for this year. They'll be a good team this year as well. Another chance to get promoted. But it is just the championship, which is marginally above the MLS.
Yeah, the name says it all. Middlesbrough.
Yeah, it kind of does. You're right. Now, he is reunited with former U.S. youth teammate and Columbus teammate Aiden Morris, one of his best friends. So that is certainly a lure for him why he wanted to go. And the reunion gave everyone a reason to trot out this video from their days together in Columbus.
In my head, I don't know what you're thinking. Now to the ground and pulled out a ring and said, marry me, Juliet, you never have to be alone. I love you. And in my head.
He's a great kid. Sad to see him go, but he and Aiden Morris are going to have a boatload of fun over there in England. So it makes me harken back now, because this news breaks yesterday. And 2 days ago, was it game day, or is it the day before game day in Cincinnati? He was out there. He just returned to the team, right, and he's in his Whitecaps kit, and they asked him what it's like to be back, and he says, great to see these guys. They mean so much to me. And the tone of it was, it struck me as a tad, not ominous, but it struck me as overly sentimental.
Right.
And now you can look
Great
back
to
on
see
it go
them
for the last time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he let his best buddies, if not everybody, know that all of this was on the horizon. So great changes afoot there for the Whitecaps.
But you're right. Like, the Wednesday game just sort of spoke to first game back after the World Cup for the guys. So I get that, and I'll give them a little. I know they'd played Canadian champions,
but different intensity level.
But
yeah,
it just, with the ownership situation and player transfers and Thomas Muller's whereabouts, and all, it just that game sort of was a state of flux. The whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to see the Whitecaps come up on the wrong end of a 4-3 scoreline. Clearly have to tighten things up defensively. To score 3 on the road and not get a result.
Goalkeeping was not great.
Yeah.
So. They had a lead, too. They came back and had a lead.
Looked like they were sort of distracted and bothered a little bit.
Oh, man. More on all this to come with Patrick Johnston. Time for today's menu, and it is a big one. Brought to you by Greta. Great spot to watch the big game, whatever that big game is next on the docket for you. It's walking distance to the arena and stadium. Stop by before or after or both. But it's also a great spot for your next event. If you need a venue for team building, social event, you check out Greta. They've got a separate bar in the back that can be cordoned off for you and your group. It's great street food. The arcade is a fun, morale boost and team bonding and building exercise. So for more information and to get your event booked, go to gretabar.com, Greta Bar at 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. Patrick Johnston of Postmedia on the Canuck changes in the front office, how he sees the scouting staffs rolling out in time for the season, on the Whitecaps road forward as managers and or landlords at BC Place Stadium, and ultimately how they replace Seb Berhalter. Jeff Marek joins us from the sheet as per usual on Fridays, covers the rest of the National Hockey League story. John Tortorella, and a lot of Canuck tie-ins here. John Tortorella, former Canucks head coach, who wants back into the National Hockey League. Evan Gold, nearly a general manager here in Vancouver, isn't working for the Canucks, but he's likely found a new home. Local kid, Conor Bedard, probably has a new line mate in Chicago. Jason Robertson, no tie-in. Although his team is owned by his team is owned by a BC guy.
I was going to say yet. Dare to dream.
Yes.
40-goal guy.
I think he wants to stay south of the border in his native country, but he is staying in Dallas for now. And then you and Matt had a chance to catch up with Langley Blaze pitching prospect graduate Sean Duncan the other day.
Yeah.
Now a New York Yankees prospect.
Delightful kid, and he is still a kid, late teenage years.
Yeah.
Big, lanky lefty, and was blessed with the ability to throw a baseball with the left hand. So
that'll get you places.
Yeah, contract in hand already. But just so well-spoken and composed, and had a really good job. My first chance to interact with him, but instant fan, and looking forward to seeing him continue the long path of guys from this part of town or this part of the province that have pushed for the big leagues. So not there yet, but hopefully one day soon. And just remember the name and stick around for the interview because very, very impressive young guy.
I think I saw a $2.5 million signing bonus.
Yeah.
For a teenager?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess we're used to that, but I mean, it's not like he was first overall. You're still getting $2.5 million.
He tells us brother and sister are probably going to get laptops out of it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's not bad. Time for
They're too young to drive, so
they don't get cars.
They're not getting cars.
Time for the Bet365 bets of the day. Jeff, where's your attention here today?
Well, it's funny because deep in July, I wasn't expecting to think too much hockey on the Bet365 line of the day, but I just got to thinking about Stanley Cup futures, and Bet365 has the Florida Panthers, if fully healthy, and with the addition of Brady, Tkachuk, they've got the Panthers as the odds-on favorite right now at plus 650. But I like the idea, the Montreal Canadiens, just the trajectory that team is on. You can get the Habs right now in the middle of summer, plus 2,000.
Really?
To win the Stanley Cup.
That's not bad. I would love to know the last time, though, a non-playoff team was so vociferously favored to win a Stanley Cup again. And I get it. And everybody just thinks it was the bounce year and the injuries and all that. But they were not even in the play. We'll see what happens. I'm looking at the CFL here tonight. 2-4 Calgary into 4-2 Winnipeg. All I have to do on the spread is give up 1.5 points from the home side Bombers, and that pays even money. Winnipeg has won 3 straight games. I might be missing something. I don't understand it, but jump on it while you can. I think the Bombers minus 1.5. The worst thing about hockey season is that it's like life. It does have an ending point eventually. There's a lot of time between now and the first time the puck drops next season, which feels like an eternity for those of us used to nightly games. But the good news is Bet365 still has plenty of games, just none that require lacing up skates. At Bet365 Casino, you've got hundreds of slots, live tables, and your favorite games. Maybe it's your second favorite game. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. Big chat with Patrick Johnston coming up next. Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center, and just another July 24th with news hot off the presses here. Patrick Johnston doesn't even know what to write about for Postmedia. But before he does any of that, he's talking with us here on Sekeres and Price. This was going to be a primarily Whitecaps-oriented conversation, yes. And then other stuff happened. So we're going to get to the BC Place. We're going to get to the Whitecaps and Seb Berhalter, because that is massive news too. But first, who was watching the pro hockey ranks for the Vancouver Canucks? Because the seats are spinning right now with Cammi Granato walking away from this AGM role, still in the organization, but and other scout departures and such. Like the amateur side seems buttoned down. We're not as worried about the kids, but who's watching the pro ranks for the Canucks? And just your overall thoughts on the news.
Well, I mean, I always thought that the sort of responsibilities that have been handed to her seemed like a lot for anybody, right? Like supervising both scouting departments, you know, basically being the sort of overseer of both scouting departments and development. It was just a lot being pulled in a lot of different ways, and that would be challenging for anyone. So, you know, my impression is, you know, listen, I think we know Cammi and Ray pretty well, and this is more about like, let's reset life a little here, a little bit. Obviously, there's been a turnover in management. There are new bosses. New guys have been brought in. You know, Darren Hermiston is obviously going to be in charge of the development team, and Brett Henning, I guess, and Todd Harvey will have to do more paperwork, because I don't imagine they're going to get a new boss, but maybe they will. There certainly hasn't been any suggestion of an intention to add yet another AGM. It makes sense, but also you sit there and you think back. There's a lot of, again, we can talk about this. There's just a lot of holes to plug, you know, and you know that the news about Cammi comes on the back of Jack Johnston moving to Columbus. I think we found that out yesterday. I think it all got missed. Neil Komodowski, who'd been pro scout with the team for 15 years, you know, based in St. Louis, has joined Buffalo as an assistant director of pro scouting. So a little promotion there for him. And of course, Dale Talon in the sort of the great turnover in May, quietly left through the side door. And I was told that Talon actually was, you know, pretty, I mean, obviously based in Florida, and but had been a pretty, you know, he files reports and showed up to meetings and was like an effective member of the group. But so he's gone. So now they're down to Brett Henning, who's been around forever, and by all accounts does a pretty good job, Brian Chapman and Lou Crawford. And I don't know how much longer Lou Crawford wants to do all this. Brian Chapman's been with him forever, but you know, like pro scouting is important, and we know how often Patrick Allvin liked to go watch, you know, players that they were thinking about. Ryan Johnston clearly is a guy who likes to. He knows every player that's in the NHL backwards and forwards because of his own experience. But you know, you want to be going to be able to see guys, and the reason why you have pro scouts is to keep tabs on what's happening and who's out there and what are interesting things happening. So it's a surprisingly crucial moment for this team in a summer that I guess is full of crucial moments.
It is surprising to me. And this has been talked about, just sort of all these first-time people in the roles that they're in. Like, you can't say that Daniel and Henrik don't have hockey experience, but they don't have executive experience. Ryan Johnston have been around forever, but first time as a general manager. Like, Cammi had some experience in the front office. And so we're right back to this idea that they are running awfully lean on the bench. They're running new staff out in Abbotsford. And this front office now, even though Cammi Granato remains in the organization, front office is still remarkably lean for an NHL operation.
A lot of pressure on people that, you know, you would think in the long run probably can get the job done, but there's a lot to be learned. Excuse me, as children run by, just a lot to be learned by, you know, as you said, guys that deserve a shot, but are probably there for reasons beyond just deserving a shot. As I noted last week, this is an organization that is trying to cut back on expenses. We know this across the board, and we can see it in the way the personnel shakes out. You know, like it's not hard for us to see it in terms of business operations and stuff like that. So, you know, like it is a concern, and I've said this from the start. Listen, I think the world of Ryan Johnston, obviously think the world of Sedins. I think they are huge potential there, right? Like, guys would be great hockey people. I just continue to be worried about them being handed the tools they need to execute this whole project. Manuel Holter, as you said, great coach, got his guy up, but like in the end, it's a coaching staff that, I think Manny will be fine, and he's organized and he's a smart guy, but it's just, the sort of lack of veteran hand who said, hey, that second-hand man, right-hand man, who's like, have you thought about this? The old backup quarterback angle, the guy that just his job is literally stand there and notice the one thing. And that's kind of lacking in this, although, like you said, from the top, there's guys that have been there. It's just not many. And that's a concern. That's a worry for me. I hope they do better than my worries warrant, I suppose, is the way to put it.
Safe to say in a rebuild, the amateur department is more important than the pro department, and despite the fact the pro department has had a lot of wins. The key for sure was Dakota Joshua's the world. It was a good department, but I mean, this is not the time for massive, and unless you're looking to flip guys like they have.
Yeah, I mean, you want to. The thing at the same time, though, is if you're trying to be aggressive in your rebuild, right, and not be stuck in the bottom forever, is you need to keep looking at the next guy, right? What's a guy that's close to being ready? What is he worth taking a shot on? And just the more eyes, the more information you have, because obviously they've got a nice little analytics team, but smaller than most now, but they've got smart people there, and they've got some smart scouts. Like their draft was good. That was a well-regarded draft. Good work from Todd Harvey and his team, right? But you just want to have eyeballs, and that's pro scouting department, which I think was criticized for a long time, perhaps a little unfairly, because in the end, it was Jim Benning who ran the pro scouting department. To me, the fundamental truth is that you need eyeballs, you need guys, you need to have people looking, and they don't have that right now. They're under pressure, right? Like, and the other thing is, like, this is late July, right? Like, a lot of these changes happen around the draft, right? Guys know, I mean, we talked about this months ago about the lack of sort of information that people on staff had about their own futures, whether they were going to get an offer. They had no idea. And if they know they're not getting an offer, then they know they can start looking elsewhere. There's a reason why Neil Komodowski gets announced on July 1, because he knew going into the draft that he wasn't going to be renewed, or that there was an opportunity out there. And, it's the same thing. So the Canucks are now going to have to go out and find some pro scouts, and whether they can, they'll find people, no doubt. But again, the timing is awkward and it's challenging. And I don't think that's what Ryan Johnston wants to be doing going through August. And, Emil Holtram wants to be doing going through August, is figuring out who's going to be searching out for the players that we need in a pinch, or who might be worth taking a shot on, because we have lots of opportunity here.
PJ, as we talk about the rebuild here, I have a big slice of cake for Jonathan Lekkerimäki today. It is his 22nd birthday, and it's our poll question on the show. Prospect or suspect? Where do you stand on Jonathan Lekkerimäki at this stage?
A little worried. He's got the one thing, right? He's got the hands. We've all seen it. And I said this going to last year, we needed to see him find goals that weren't just ripping shots off the wing or from the top of the slot. If he was going to be an effective NHL player, he had to find goals in front of the net, and we just didn't see that enough. And on top of that is, he's slight, right? Like I'm not a big guy fetishist by any stretch of the imagination. If you can play, you can play. But the truth is, with a guy like that, you have to find a way to separate yourself from the defenders. And he has struggled so far in the NHL to do that. Now, it was interesting at times, and I did see it. Adam Foote loved praising his work in the corners, right? Like talking about what a kind of guy he'll go and get you the puck. And you'd see flashes of that. But to sort of be able to take that next step and not just be the next Hunter Shinkaruk, you have to be able to separate yourself. And I'm worried. I'm worried about that. And, obviously he's taken a physical pounding in his first 2 years in North American pro hockey. And, I want to be wrong. This is one of many things. I consistently say these things. I think we're all the same. We want to be wrong on these things, right? Because for everyone's benefit, Jonathan Lekkerimäki proving us all wrong would be brilliant for every fan and every Canucks reporter out there, and the team obviously too. So yeah, listen. Happy birthday to him. He's 22. He's going to have his man. He's got his man strength, and we'll see what that makes a difference come training camp this season.
See, PJ is setting the bar pretty low, which is good because then that allows guys to climb over it.
Right?
More on that coming up with Jeff
Under-promise,
Marek.
over-deliver.
Always, yes.
Yeah.
Now, like he's a 21-year-old that is ripping up the AHL. Like he's solved the AHL by 21. Like that's a feather in his cap. So you can wonder how things translate. We know a lot of quad A players that have come through this organization in years gone by. So yeah, that happens. But at such a young age, I mean, if I'm him, I'm still feeling pretty good about myself right now, despite the numbers at the NHL level. I just turned 22. I've solved the AHL already. I can do this.
But he's coming off shoulder surgery
Yeah,
too.
no,
We
I
have
mean
to keep that in mind.
That is the wild card here. That is the wild card.
Yeah, and that's my biggest worry is just the nature of what he's coming off of. I think it's one thing if you're coming off, so even a sprained or a broken wrist or whatever, but the shoulder is where the power is. You're right. Listen, he's scored in the AHL. That's been important, but the pounding, the injuries he took, he has taken some pretty spectacular injuries in the AHL, and that's just that's a durability thing, right? And it's the old is health is a skill at a certain level, and if you can't stay healthy, there's just it may not be your fault, but do you got it? And if you can't stay healthy, then you're not much use to anybody.
Which would represent more of a success for him next year? 80 games in the NHL or 15 goals?
Ooh, I mean,
Games or goals?
I would hope if he's
one
played
begets the
80
other.
games,
No.
he would, yes, that's what I was going to say. I think if he plays 80 games, J-Pat, he's got 15 goals because that means two things. One, he's proven to be durable, right? And that's what you want. And two, that means that he's been effective enough that he stayed in the lineup, right? That he hasn't been, basically found himself falling behind guys on the fourth line. He hasn't falling behind Paul Cotter or whatever, right? Like that, this team needs him playing in a role, and if he's playing in a role, that means he's going to keep playing. And if he's not performing, I mean, that is what happened with this past season, right? Like, remember, he broke camp with the team, and then, like Braden Coots, kind of got overwhelmed and ended up not being on the team and got back to the minors and then got hurt and, was kind of back and forth, and then the season was over. So, I to me, the 80 games is absolutely the standard you're looking for because that exactly, Blake, does get you 15 goals. And again, that is what you need. That proves me wrong, and that proves that he is a part of the future and that this team is pointed in the right direction.
Okay, exhale. Get the Canucks out of our system here. And who'd have thought we'd have sizzling takes on the Canucks on July 24th? But here we are.
Yeah.
Because there's also other massive news here. You had a very, I'll say interesting. I won't say revealing because ultimately it's just words here, Patrick. But they're interesting words from Ravi Kahlon on the future of BC Place and the possibility, the openness to sell the darn thing to the Vancouver Whitecaps, or maybe both them and the Lions. I don't know. This is. Did you get the feeling this is off the top of his head, or is this informed opinion that this might be on the table? Where do you think this came from?
Well, let's put it this way: it was in probably minute 12 of a 15-minute interview, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't something he was waiting it off his chest, but it's something he brought up. Like I basically, we talked about a bunch of things. We talked about World Cup, we talked about the Whitecaps and the overall project. And then I said, listen, where do you think things are at? How are you feeling? It seems things seem pretty good. And he goes, yeah, no, listen, they've made presentations. They've given us a sense. We've showed them what, where our books are at. They've showed us what their sort of challenges are. We understand them. There's a lot of things that need to get done, away from the stadium. They obviously still have thoughts about building their own stadium, but let's be honest. We talked about a lease, and he said, we'd be willing. And I think that put the quote. We've talked about a purchase. I was like, what? And I basically said, that's pretty dramatic. Like that's not something I think I've ever imagined. You guys have talked a lot about this being a community asset and it being an important thing that you, in many ways, kind of want to safeguard to make sure that it's available for whatever. As much as it is a business and it's, I think, doing better as a business. And he goes, I mean, I don't know, I should have brought the quote in front of me, but yeah, he said, no, you basically, no, you didn't hear wrong. And yeah, if that's something that they're willing to talk about, we are willing to talk about it as well. Obviously, and obviously the costing has to be there. There's been a lot of money spent on upgrading that stadium. That the reason why it looks so fantastic at the World Cup was because they spent money on it. And he argues, by the way, that they really believe that they're going to come out even on the cost of hosting everything, because they've got this hotel tax that's been in place for 2 years, runs for another 4, and then they think that the revenues, the overall sort of sales tax and all kinds of things, which listen, that he's going to spend it as much as he wants on that one. But anyway, they said this stadium was such a massive success. We're happy it's been such a massive success. It showed off well. And that, I think they can see the scenario where an option to purchase the stadium adds value to the Whitecaps, and in the end, in their efforts to seek a new investor, right? Because if all of a sudden you're talking about, say, a 5 to 10 year lease deal, that's the short-term thing they've been talking about. And then in all, it secures the short term, and then in the long run, it ends up not being building a whole other stadium, but simply buying the stadium they're in, $1 billion or $2 billion transaction, whatever it is. I mean, that fundamentally changes the nature of what this team is. Right now, it is the anchor tenant of a massive operation that, if you do it right, puts on massive concerts. It's the biggest stadium in Canada, the biggest concert venue in Canada, and it puts you into a tier of sort of value, team value, all that franchise value. You should have Tom Mann do all these things, all these words that I hear him say all the time. Mm-hmm. But it puts you in a new tier, right? It makes you one of the most valuable teams in Major League Soccer. It puts you in range with LAFC and Inter Miami and like the teams like that are not just exciting sort of destinations for players, but off-field engines that drive the league forward. And from that standpoint, you could understand why this might have come up. And certainly I think the Whitecaps would certainly be very interested in such an opportunity to at least talk about that as being an option.
The other part of that story, I know we're going to get to Seb Berhalter in a sec, but at the bottom of your piece, you mentioned that the Vegas group sort of has cooled to some degree, at least in terms of being hot and heavy to buy the Whitecaps.
Yeah.
What's changed there?
Well, as I think I pondered, that was my, did you read to the end?
Yes, and I did.
Forcing people, I know we all love just going, what's the headline? Forcing people to do what I want them to do. Listen, I had someone come and say to me, hey, have you heard this? And I haven't been able to lock it down. But it's certainly clear, because then I had someone else say, I've heard this elsewhere. It's certainly a thing that's being whispered around. I mean, in context, what also gets whispered around, more than once, and I think Blake's heard this, the Vegas deal's locked in. And you're like, no, it's not. Like, it's not.
It's built on land they don't own, on a clause, a tax clause that they don't even know they can use just yet. Like, it's a condition upon a condition.
Yeah, which is exactly. And so with that in mind, with people going, oh my God, it's going to happen. And you're like, no, it's not. It's an idea. And Garber himself basically admitted that last month. It's just, like, the Minister Ravi Kahlon didn't himself know anything. He said, I haven't heard anything. Like, I put the quote in. He hasn't heard anything since it got floated in April. Right? Like, I know there have been meetings, right? Like, the league has carried on. The team itself has carried on. They recognize that there may have to be, the reality of this, and we've talked about this more than once, is that there still is, and you mentioned off the top, there still is no one set to sign on the dotted line, say, I'm going to buy this team, or I am ready to buy this team if this and this and this happens. There's certain people who have the idea that that's something that would interest them, but at the end of the day, until you have something firm, you have to keep assuming that you may have to go in the other direction. So listen, they continue to have meetings and check around and see what's going on. But the reality of that project, and I always thought it always struck me as an interesting one, is that if you presumably Major League Soccer would like to put an expansion team in Vegas. Don Garber's been open about this in the past, right? The list of cities he's named are all these very successful USL cities. Right. But going to Vegas, as you said, requires things that do not exist yet. There is no stadium. They are not going to go to Allegiant Stadium. They do not want to play there. That is not an option. There is no way to pick this team up and move it to Vegas in the next 7 months. It's just not going to happen. So I think that alone was always a challenge. And then just the sort of finances of it. Okay, you go and buy the team for $400 million, which is the asking price. And then you're asked to pay a relocation fee. Like it would be in the end far cheaper for a prospective Vegas owner, whether it's Gustafsson or someone else, to simply pay an expansion fee, join the club, and then you got your own team anyway. So, I've heard enough of kind of people whispering, going, yeah, there's just, it's nothing is certain, obviously, until it's done. But I just have this feeling that I do wonder if the Vegas project is just not even a factor at this point.
Real quick on this note before we move on to Seb, do you think that this city's treatment of the World Cup will ultimately help save the Whitecaps?
Narratively, yes. I think there was enough already going into it that stood up in favor of the team. Like I said, for starters, the simple reality is the league wants to do expansion. They don't want to move teams. Moving the team, as I've said many times, says terrible things about the operation of the league, right? Like you're selling 25,000 tickets a night and you can't make it work. Like that alone was a reason why the league would not want to do this. Why Don Garber was so frustrated about the fact that it had taken so long to kind of shake the trees and get people to pay attention. But yeah, listen, the World Cup was such a smashing success in so many ways. It will, I think it may yet be the final push, right? Like that's been like, yes, everyone saw it. It proved the point. It proved that the stadium done right is a very viable place to play. I get that, you're not probably going to pull in upper bowl capacity crowds, but I also kind of said to someone involved with the team, at the first game, even the Canada game, I said, seriously, you guys can't try to aim for this. I actually think have some ambition here. You price it right. Like they continue. There's a reason why they've kind of held firm on pricing, is because they, I think, secretly do dream of doing this, of pulling in 40,000 fans a night. Because that's how it used to be, right?
Seattle does it. Seattle does do it. Yeah.
Seattle does it. It can be done. And I think there is a buzz, and so that alone, I think it has showed a way that's possible. So yeah, listen, the World Cup will undoubtedly, presuming this ends the way we all want it, which is that the team stays, the World Cup will absolutely be a factor. Whether it was the only factor, I don't think so.
No,
but it certainly puts a nice bow on the whole story. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, people that haven't maybe been following the Whitecaps as closely or don't understand the machinations of soccer are going to lose their minds that Seb Berhalter, I think the best player on the team, and not the best career, that's Thomas Muller, we understand. Yeah. But I think he's the best player on the team, leaves for just a $2 million transfer fee to a championship side, which honestly, the Whitecaps versus Middlesbrough right now, that'd be a good contest.
Yeah.
Honestly, that would be a competitive match. Yeah. But there is a reason for it. I do think there is how much do you think Axel Schuster takes heat ultimately from somebody about this? Because if they had signed him to an extension, they're getting more than $2 million.
I guess. But was he going to sign it? The cards were in favor. Partly this is, partly this is the reality of Major League Soccer. And, it is hard to quantify just how Byzantine the rules, the roster and contract rules are in this league. There's reasons why they're complicated and hard. But they also, I think, can sometimes work as an incentive against what exactly you said. So, as a side point, trying to figure out how much of the transfer fee do the Whitecaps keep. Well, if you go look, they keep all of it, but also they can keep up to $3 million, but they also have to recoup, blah, blah. Anyway, the point is that Seb Berhalter is their best player. Even coming into the year, coming off last year, you had a feeling this is a guy that is going to get scooped up by someone. Now, we assume that meant bigger league. And I think we think of the Premier League as being a bigger league, and we think of Serie A as being a Premier League, and La Liga to a degree a bigger league, and Bundesliga and on, and League One and all that. But the English second division. Now, this is a team that made the championship or made the promotion playoff finals, so they could have easily been a Premier League team. And then we're talking a different story, but they certainly are not they are a middle of the road at best Premier League quality organization, but they aren't in the Premier League. So it is a funny one. And the fee, yes, you would have liked a bigger fee, but they are getting the fee. I'm told, by the way, this deal will not get done today. It is obviously he has flown there. He has to do his medical, and then only then will they be able to announce it. And that's not happening today, I've been told. So, it's a tough one, and it's huge pressure. To me, the real pressure now is what do they do to replace him, right? Because it's not just Berhalter, right? It's Pedro Vite, right? Let's not forget that they've lost two vitally important young midfielders in the last year, guys that made a lot happen offensively, and that double pivot they played, it was everything. And the Kubas Berhalter pairing was everything, and we saw it on Wednesday what a mess the Whitecaps are without that sort of steadiness of Berhalter, that energy action man ability that he has. The game was very, very loose, partly because it was their first game really back in action and what have you, but it just missed the energy and competency on that sort of right defensive midfield that Berhalter brought. So it's a huge pressure. There are, I think, some options out there. I'll be interested to see how they do any of them, because they are in a pinch. That's the other thing, right? The fact of how they've set up their roster with their DPs and everything makes it challenging. I just said aloud, I have no sourcing on this. Steven Ustak, right? There's a guy that needs a club, right? He's sort of forgotten man.
Ben Steiner suggested that too, yeah.
Right? Let's go. But that's complicated. Then again, Inter Miami just signed Casemiro, who was making $25 million at Manchester United, and now apparently is happy to make the senior minimum in Miami, which is give me a break. So, the Whitecaps are not going to break the rules, I don't think, to make it happen, but certainly there are creative ways to get people on rosters, and so maybe that's something there. I don't know. But that's the kind of player that this team should be looking at. They are top of the league, Blake. They need to get a midfielder who keeps them at top of the league. And right now, I love Oliver Laz. Seems like a lovely guy, but he is not going to be.
He's not the answer. No.
No.
And you say they need help and Vite, all that. There has not been a night where they had Vite, Berhalter, Muller, and Gauld all available. So what I am mildly worried about, I'm hoping they prove me wrong, is they're going to do the old, our midseason acquisitions are Ryan Gauld, Sam Adekubi, and that replaces. I don't think so either, because at least in people's minds, they're like, those guys were already here. We understand what you're doing here, but they could make the argument. I mean, those guys have never been available while Berhalter, Vite, and Muller were available as well. You never had them all available at once. So,
well, Vite and Muller were never teammates.
Right.
But I mean, just sitting here going, man, is Patrick Alvin running this team? What is going on? These guys are like an extra first rounder.
Yeah. Anything to add, sir?
We'll see. I mean, the pressure's on.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, and I think for the casuals too, I mean, we are so focused on the National Hockey League that to see one of your best players or your best player just up and leave in the middle of the season, especially the season that they're having, that's, I think, a tough thing for casual fans to grasp.
And I think in a certain way is an argument why they are going to switch to winter season, right? They're just going to get on the same player acquisition schedule as the rest of the world does for the most part. And that, that your January deadline becomes your midseason transfer deadline, just as it happens in, it's your trade deadline, and it makes sense. Otherwise, because right now they're doing it backwards. Their trade deadline is in fact the preseason deadline in Europe, and it's just, So it's a little wacky. It's great. Ryan Gauld being back is great, and obviously we saw how well he played. I'm a little worried. Thomas Muller sitting on the bench there. You're a little worried about fitness there and what's going on there. Because obviously, remember, he played in both Canadian Championship games.
Yes.
The idea that, this is just because he went off to New York to cover the World Cup final, I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. This is a game they needed him. So, a lot of miles on those bones, but he still got it more than any of us ever possibly could imagine. And they need him, but they need to find some help in midfield.
My hot take on acquisitions. Goalkeeper. I'm not hearing anything. I'm just saying. I think there should probably be an upgrade.
You done with Yohei?
A little bit. Love the guy. Great personality. I think there needs to be an upgrade there. That's just mine. Patrick, who knew we'd have however many minutes we just did, and we probably could have gone longer. July 24th, it just landed in our laps.
We didn't even get him talking about baseball.
No.
Oh my God.
No.
Things go crazy. Matt leaves. Things go crazy. Matt leaves. All the topics. Yeah. All right. Take care, guys.
Summer showcase, all that. Thanks, Patrick. See you soon.
Weekend.
Yeah.
Sekeres and Price featuring Jeff Paterson, and now featuring another one, Jeff Marek.
We got you outnumbered, Blake.
From the sheet. It's a 2-on-1.
Exactly.
I'm just
Here
going to
we
go down
go.
my
We're
belly.
taking over, J-Pat. You can just stand down there.
Take away the pass, Blake.
No,
Take
I'm
away
just
the
going
pass.
down. I'm going to slide into the corner on my stomach like a fool.
You just be the grocery stick on the bench and separate the forwards from the D. Got it?
Yeah,
That's your
for
job
the rest
here now.
of the
Jeff's
game.
taking over.
How's it going? How's the summer going?
Good. Was in Mexico for a week, and I'm back, and there's more news. So we keep feeds hot around here, right? Like there's no shortage. Like it's funny. I was talking to someone about this morning. Remember last fall when we said, "Man, next summer is going to be awful. There's going to be nothing. All the biggies are gone. Like what talk about? It's going to be feathers, empty calorie shows." This has been the best off season we've ever seen. As far as like drama and various dynamics between teams and players and speculation and what does it all add up to, and people speaking their minds finally. That's the one thing. There is one shift that I really do start to see here now is more people, and I do realize that I'm talking to a Vancouver show who are just blessed with Jim Rutherford press conferences for a number of years, but does it not seem now that people are at least trying to be a little more forthcoming in answers, in conversations? Now, it's hockey, so it's slow and it's tiny, it's incremental, but it does seem as if it's starting to nudge that way.
You're talking to the market that had a room of 21 guys that said there was a problem in the room, and 2 guys that were involved in that that said there was no problem in the room. So
I understand.
It's a unique situation.
The most spoiled fan base as far as entertainment goes off of the ice. I do understand that. Oh, by the way, I had a conversation. Can I just jump around really quick?
Yeah.
I thought this might be of interest to you guys. Had a conversation with someone right before I came on the air, and we were trying to figure out where the Detroit Red Wings are at with their search for the new head of hockey operations. And 2 names pop up here. Like I do think that someone I think that Scott White will probably get interviewed. But the one name that this one person brought up to me, and I think that eventually Nick Lidstrom will be involved in some type of management capacity in Detroit. I know that he's only been in Seattle for 5 minutes, but would Patrick Allvin make some sense? And considering he's a former Red Wing, would Jim Rutherford make any sense there?
Wow.
A last act. Well, maybe it wouldn't be a last
Again,
act. Another act.
There's some conversations, right? Like summer conversations. Like here we
Not
go.
often does a guy sign with a new team though and leave immediately. Like Allvin's nestled in there in Seattle. Does he immediately leave?
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand all that. But
I think JR would be a tough sell to any market after what happened here. He was brought in to build a championship contender, and he left with a 32nd place team. I think he's lost a little bit of his mojo in that regard. I think that'd be just a tough sell after the way things have gone there in Motown here of late.
I understand. And if part of the mandate is to try to unite the Hughes brothers in Michigan, perhaps Rutherford is not the right person to do that.
Yeah.
But it is one of the interesting things here right now is just how quiet it is around this Detroit search. Every other search, it's been turn on the tap and out come the names, but it's been really like you think Draper's going to get some consideration obviously, and Sean Horkoff, but it's been really sealed up in Detroit, has it not?
Is there a possibility that Dylan Larkin never gets traded now because of the change of management?
I've wondered about that too. The thing that I've been told is it's probably gone far enough that it has to happen eventually. That it's gonna be tough to go back. Again, never say never. And egos massaged, and new people can come in with various relationships and change things. I was just told that it would be difficult. It would be difficult not to sort of take this to its sort of logical conclusion.
You started your show, is it yesterday, with some Evan Gold tidbits. Evan Gold was, we thought seconds away from becoming the next general manager of the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah,
and then he wasn't. And now he has let his contract expire with the Bruins, and he is off to...
Sounds like the Islanders. I don't think that anyone would be surprised at this point if Evan Gold at the end of all of it. And again, I'm not sure what the role is, but Matthew Darche, you guys know Matthew Darche, very progressive thinker, comes from a very progressive organization with the Tampa Bay Lightning, eyes of the future, and running a modern team. I don't think it would surprise anybody that Matthew Darche would be interested in Evan Gold. And the, as we like to say, the whispering circles out there, or the barking chain out there, has him ending up with the Islanders. What role is that in? I mean, there already are a few assistant general managers there. Don't know what the role would be, but the situation looks like it's ending up with Evan Gold ending up with the New York Islanders after his contract officially expires on August 1st with the Boston Bruins.
Jeff, he got a contract this week, so his name was in the news. I just wonder, is the hockey world at large sleeping on Jet Greaves? And I ask that maybe with a broader sort of perspective of the next World Cup and the next Olympics. And he had a nice run at the World Championship, 25-year-old Canadian goaltender. I was surprised when I saw somewhere this week, only 6 other goalies played more minutes in the National Hockey League this past season than Jet Greaves.
Which is why I think a lot of people found it odd that, when you look at comparables going into arbitration, and like it was close, like they did it right before they got into the arbitration room here. So it got close to getting there. All the comparables, like from the team side at that price point, the 2.8 that Columbus had submitted, like those aren't for starting goaltenders. And Jet Greaves grabbed the starting net mining position away from Elvis Merzlikins pretty quickly this year. Like you would be looking at, the Archie Lofts, who Vancouver Canucks fans would know very well, Arvid Soderblom, Joel Hofer, like these types of goaltenders. When you're looking at that number that Columbus was hoping for, those aren't starting goalies. And that's why, the CAA, who represents Jet Greaves, came in essentially with the Dustin Wolf number, not too dissimilar to the Lucas Dostal number. Ends up with 5 times 3, which, considering too, hasn't played 100 games.
Yeah.
Right. But when you talk about, like, to your point, J-Pat, like making your mark, like I already think, and this is just based on eyeballs, he may have the fastest glove in the NHL. Like, don't shoot glove on Jet Greaves. Jet Greaves' glove is like the quickest in the league right away. Like, every player has like that one calling card. Jet Greaves' glove is phenomenal. Now, if this guy is 6'3", we're talking about him as if like he'll be in the conversation one day for one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like that's the only real thing working against him at this point. But are people sleeping on him, J-Pat? Yeah, they are. And a lot of it is because he plays in Columbus.
Sure.
Right. And Columbus isn't a team that necessarily gets a lot of headlines, but I'm with you. Like, Hockey Canada will be looking at Jet Greaves right now, and for all the reasons that you mentioned, and looking at World Cup and looking at Olympics, and this could finally be the guy, or at least one of the guys that has put himself now very much on the map in the conversation for a goaltending savior. Dare we say? Like, we'll see. Like, there's still troubled times ahead for the Blue Jackets here, so who knows? He had a great season last year, but again, he hasn't played 100 games. I always look at, I don't know how you guys do this. When I look at defensemen, I say, I don't want to make my mind up until I see 200. And for goaltenders, I don't want to make my mind up until I see 100. So Greaves looks awesome. I'm really happy for him. I'm happy the Blue Jackets locked up a key position here for the next 3 years. But now it's show me time again. for Jack Reeves and the pressure of going into a season as the undisputed number one. And the question becomes, now what do they do, or what can they do with Elvis Merzlikins? We'll see.
Other big signings, Patrick Kane back to Chicago. I would assume that he plays with Conor Bedard. Is that the right guy to play with Conor Bedard? That is a very diminutive line, no matter who's the third guy. I saw somebody suggesting Alex DeBrincat should go back as well, and they should just have a 5'9" line. How do you think this works out? And is it for Bedard specifically?
I think Bedard had a lot to do with this. I think that Bedard said it would be incredible to have Pat Kane back with the Chicago Blackhawks. If you're Kyle Davidson, you're probably saying to yourself, oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. The superstar that we've just signed. The franchise player, face of the franchise, says, I want to play with Pat Kane. Oh, okay.
No history there, is there?
Pick up the phone. Hi, Pat Morris, Kyle Davidson here. So let's just get this done. When he does come back, and hopefully everything goes smoothly with Conor Bedard here, and he gets back, sooner than anticipated. I would imagine so. Like, it's a unique dynamic, right? Like, you have a pass first winger playing with a shoot first center. If you put the two together, you don't see that very often. Like, that would be a dynamic that if I'm the Chicago Blackhawks, right away I'm curious about, right? Like the phenomenon. The phenomenon over the last 15 years in the NHL is the playmaking winger, right? It's no longer just the center's going to get him the puck and he's going to blast away. That's always traditionally the way that it's been. And, you can count, every team's got them now, the amount of playmaking wingers that are in the NHL. It used to just be like Pat Kane and Mitch Marner. Well, no, like every team has that dynamic now. When we have someone like Pat Kane with a shoot first center, Marner had that with Austin Matthews. You're pretty tempted to say, I wonder what we can do here. Pass first winger and a shot first center. So I would at least think, Blake, like right away, that would be something they would have in their mind here for sure. $8 million though, hey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think we all did the same thing. Like, $8 million over 2 years? Yeah, that makes $8 million a year.
Yep.
I'm happy for him. 16 sheets to end the career. If this is going to be the end of the career for Patrick Kane, like, that's great work. That really is. Listen, they have the room right now. Like, a couple of things with Chicago. Right now, they do need to win. Let's make no mistake about that. Like, this year, as much as it seems like everybody's been tried to make feel comfortable, whether it's players, coaches, like managers, like everyone's been everybody's sort of gotten what they've wanted in a lot of ways, and there's a comfort around it. I think this is a show me year for Chicago. And ownership needs to see a return on investment, not unlike the Samuelis in Anaheim last year. Kind of said to Pat Verbeek, okay, like the rebuild is fine and dandy. We need to see an ROI here. And they got it. Like, made the playoffs, won a round, great for the Anaheim Ducks. And the Samuelis got their return on investment. And now we all know what's happened to Anaheim with offer sheets and Carlson, et cetera. We'll see about Gauthier. But they took that step. Chicago has to take that step right now. And also, Chicago needs to change a negative story in Chicago. And I think wins is the big one. And number two is Kane is not just a really good player who's going to contribute, but it's a great feel-good story. Like, it does hit on a lot of levels. Like, when I think about like the number $8 million, I don't think to myself, that's just $8 million for Pat Kane, the hockey player. That's for Pat Kane and the Chicago Blackhawks story. Does that make sense? Like, do you think I'm off base? I'm like,
but that can be seen in two ways, right? Like, there's bad history there too. So, there's.
We all thought he was done there.
Yeah.
We all did.
Yeah.
We all did.
Yeah.
We all thought, like, when he went to the Rangers, like, that was it. There was no turning back. As we've learned before, you might burn the bridge, but they'll always send a lifeboat. Mm-hmm. In this case, Chicago sent the lifeboat.
Speaking of burning bridges, I see John Tortorella has spoken out. And says that he wants to coach again, which isn't a huge surprise.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, what did we learn from his cameo behind the bench in Vegas? And at this stage in his career and with his track record, Is he an 82 game coach, or is Torts just going to have to sit in the bullpen and wait for that call? Exactly. Like, just sit there, wait his turn, and maybe in the spring there's a team that feels, needs a kick in the pants, and he's the guy at that stage.
Is that Enter Sandman we hear in the background? Here comes the closer. It's who first brought that point up was Allison Lucan, broadcaster with the Seattle Kraken, and she said and she would have covered John Tortorella when she was covering Columbus when she wrote for The Athletic, and she said could we be seeing here perhaps, essentially what you guys are talking about, and that is a coaching closer in the NHL, someone that kind of. This is kind of, shades back to David Carradine in Kung Fu, going from sort of town to town to town to solve problems. Could he just, because I do believe that there is a coach, I should know his name. There is a coach in soccer who's legendary for this, who goes from team to team and essentially acts as the fixer, like the wolf from Pulp Fiction, Harvey Keitel, right? Who actually does this. And could we see now, given what he just did with the Vegas Golden Knights, could John Tortorella essentially be that fixer? We don't know if we want you for the full season, but in a contained sort of 2 or 3 months, because the one thing that we didn't see John Tortorella do, mainly because he didn't have time to do it, is sort of, play out pushing players in a very specific way. In Philadelphia, it was, Cam York, for example, right? There was that kind of right away, one of the first thing I remember when Cam York got cut and sent down to Lehigh, and Zamula ended up taking his place, and then it was tough to get out of the doghouse. He didn't have time to play like that with any of the players. It had to be all positivity, forward thinking. There's no I got to teach this guy a lesson. There was none of that with John Tortorella, and it worked. And it kind of felt like a little bit of a different John Tortorella at the same time. I am curious if, honestly, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to become a high-paid fixer. We do see, I don't know, I should know the name. There is a coach that does this in soccer. I believe in the Premier, not 100% sure. Blake, I will defer to you.
Mourinho, Ancelotti, Guardiola. I don't know who you're thinking of. No.
I don't know. I've been told by a number of people, because I've brought this point up before, and they're like, oh, so-and-so from soccer, because that's what he does. Maybe we see that with John Tortorella.
I'm just glad that
put it this way. Considering how much different things we're seeing in the NHL right now, I've stopped trying to be surprised about anything. It wouldn't surprise me. Sorry, Jeff.
I can tell it. No, I can just tell it's midsummer here. We're all fairly relaxed. Neither one of you guys jumped on me when I said, "Is he an 82 game coach?" Of course, it's an 84 game coach now.
Errors and omissions.
I thought about it. There's
old habits.
Yeah, don't worry. I've stepped on names and messed up facts. Don't worry. I ain't putting my hand up.
Jason Robertson. What does it mean for anything?
Kick the can down the road. Kick the can.
But does he
kick the can down the road?
Is he at Dallas Stars training camp?
Yeah. Oh no, I do think I do. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that he starts the season, and then the next pressure point will be December. They can sign an extension in January, but if it's not happening for Jason Robertson, or perhaps more importantly, if it's not happening for the Dallas Stars. Now, I still expect Dallas to be a good team, but every year there's 1 or 2 100-point teams that fall off the face of the earth. It happens every year. And in the summer we say, oh no, we could never see it. Yeah. I mean, here I am talking to a Vancouver audience. You guys know what that's like. It does happen. So again, an unlikely what if, but what if come December, things have just gone horribly wrong for the Dallas Stars, and they have to pivot and they have to change. Then they have that next conversation about Jason Robertson. All they've done is hit pause on the story. This is not the end of the Jason Robertson Dallas Stars story, unless he's no longer on the team, or it is a long-term extension here. And that's where we're at. It's 1 year. It's Robertson finally came to the realization that Dallas wasn't coming off the number 12, and probably just said, I just want this to end. And let's just it's a really good number. I do know that some players did talk to him and kind of, reminded him of the good situation, and it's a winning team, and 12 is a really nice number, especially in that state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're kicking the can down the road. And as much as the next pressure point people may say is January, I think it's December. Because if things aren't going well for Dallas in December, I think that changes the equation.
For 1 year's worth of work, it's not bad at all. Hey, and before you go, Zeev Buium, how long do you think a guy like Zeev Buium, because he's not a superstar guy coming out of an ELC, but he's a potential star. Is he in a different category than some of the superstars that are going shorter term or buying 1 year free? Where do you think this is going to come? Because he's an interesting player in terms of where his arc is.
I thought J-Pat was really strong on this one on the last show when you talked about his future and long term versus short. One of the more salient points here is what's the appetite to spend here for the Vancouver Canucks right now? Where, for a lot of teams, it's identify your young players and lock them up for as long as you can and buy your UFA years. I think a lot of it just comes down to what is the appetite here for a big contract for Zeev Buium. I still don't know who, and I'm not there at all the games like you guys are. I still don't know where Zeev Buium is going to end up. I like what I see. I really do. I think this guy's an excellent young defenseman. I love how hard he works. I love his offensive talent. You love the skating. I just don't know where he's going to fit in to the big equation here for the Vancouver Canucks. A horrible podcast answer I'm giving you, which is I don't know. But I would submit that for anyone that wants a more thorough answer, go listen to J-Pat on yesterday's show. But right now that to me would be a conundrum, because I don't know how good this guy is going to be. I like what I see so far, but I'm having a hard time projecting.
I wonder if his representation is betting on the player and saying, hey, we'll go super short term deal here. He'll give you a 3-year deal, because in 3 years he's going to be a star, and then you're going to have to pay him $12 million a year. Do they do something like that?
One way or the other, yeah, for sure. But that's a conundrum, right? You want. I mean, listen, he was the key piece of the Quinn Hughes trade. I'm telling you guys, it's massive part of it. So you want to be in a position where he can legitimately, through his agency, come to you and say, "We believe our client is worth $12 million." That should be a good news story for the Vancouver Canucks. Yeah. Not a sort of cautionary tale, something that you fear. It's like Bob Gainey would always say, if you're a general manager who sleeps well at night, your team stinks, because you have, the players aren't complaining. I don't have problems. You want superstars. You want superstars that cost a lot of money, because those guys demand being treated differently. Is that I want to have headaches. If I have headaches, I know my team is good. As Bob Gainey's point. I always like that about Bob.
I don't know if this is a positive or negative. You're not a headache. Maybe that makes it sound like you're not a superstar, but you're not a headache. You
know what they say about me always, Blake? A mediocre man is always at his best.
Yes.
A mediocre man is always at his best.
Always keep that bar at a reasonable height. You don't want to strive too high here. Jeff, appreciate it.
That's like Bill Derlego. Bill Derlego, former Canuck and Maple Leaf, would always say that. So Bill Waters was his agent, and Bill Waters would always come to him and say, "Billy, who's a better player than you? Who's a better shooter, or Bobby Smith?" And he'd say, "Me." So who's a better playmaker, you or Bobby Smith? He said, "Me." Who's a better overall player, you or Bobby Smith? Me. He goes, "Well, how come Bobby Smith is making so much more than you? And how come Bobby Smith is out producing?" He says, "Bill, I could score 50 goals every year, but you know what'll happen if I do that? They'll ask me to do it again next year."
Never keep the expectations high.
Keep it all in check.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll talk soon, man. Thank you.
Thanks, boys. Have a great weekend.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center. And now we go down to Tampa, Florida, and the New York Yankees spring training complex. J-Pat to link up with Sean Duncan. He's a left-handed pitcher from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. and he was the 63rd overall pick to the historic New York Yankees a couple of Saturdays ago at the Major League Baseball draft. Sean, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be on here. This will be fun.
Take me back to draft day. What were the thoughts and emotions as everything was going on for you? Where did you watch it? And, how did you get the call?
I was watching it at home with my family. There was definitely a lot of tension in the day. You know, we didn't really know how it was going to go. A lot of just, you know, on edge for most of the day. And like a lot of excitement because, you know, I was excited to see where I would end up. And then, you know, I ended up getting a call at 35 when they picked the first time saying that we had made a deal and they're going to take me at 63. So I knew a little bit beforehand. There was some talk that maybe somebody would get me before, but if I was there at 63, New York was taking me at 63. So when I got the first call, it was like, holy crap, I'm going to be a Yankee. And then when 63rd came and my name was eventually called on the screen, it was, like a feeling that I'll never forget. I grew up a Yankees fan. I've been a Yankees fan my entire life. So to get picked by my favorite team, and it was just amazing.
Why the Yankees?
My dad was a Yankees fan. And, you know, I just I had a Yankees jersey when I was a baby all the way up. Like I was, you know, set up to be a Yankees fan, took after my dad. And then as I kind of grew up and got into baseball, the Yankees were just drawn to me with, you know, the championships they've won, the history, the players that they've had. So, yeah, I mean, everything about them is awesome. And I'm glad to be a part of it. So, yeah.
I think I read in the Steve Ewan article in the Province, the Yankees backpack as well. Like you were kitted out in your school days.
Yeah, I do. It's in my room, actually. I have it here. So I brought it down here because I wanted to still rep them. So, yeah, it's faded more than when I got it. But, you know, it's got character. So.
Who were your guys? Like, as you grow, I think you're 18 now. So, when we look at, your introduction to baseball, like who were your Yankee guys as you became a fan of that team?
Growing up, I was always a Mariano Rivera fan. I was 5 years old when he retired, but I mean, I would watch YouTube. I've read his books. Like I have a jersey, all of this stuff. He's definitely my favorite Yankee. The way that he was able to, command the zone with basically one pitch and just attack every time was, something that I really connected with. He's an ultra competitive person, and I think that's kind of what drew me towards him because so am I. So, yeah.
I was doing some reading on the Major League Baseball draft the Friday beforehand, and I saw none other than Kylie McDaniel of ESPN had reported the Yankees have big interest in this British Columbia lefty. So you must have known that the Yankees were interested in you. And then explain what you said earlier about you got the phone call about cutting the deal to go with the 63rd overall pick. For those who don't understand, explain the cutting the deal part of a baseball prospect at the draft.
Basically, it was there was some talks that the Yankees were definitely a team that I was looking at. There was some other ones mixed in there too as well: Blue Jays, Kansas City, Milwaukee. So there was a couple of teams that I had an inkling that was going to take me, I guess. And the cutting the deal part basically was they had approached me and was like, if we give you my signing bonus, the dollars that I was going to sign for, will you hold out and go with us, basically? And what they had offered me was kind of what I was ready to sign for, and I took it, and rest is history.
Have you allowed yourself to dream about what it'd be like to pitch at Yankee Stadium?
A little bit. I mean, I've dreamed about it my entire life. That's been my dream since I was a kid. I guess I still am. But when I was, 6 years old, like, it's always been a dream of mine. I'm that much closer now, but there's a lot more work to do. I'm excited to work hard, get with our player development staff and everybody, all the coaches, pitching coaches, and get to the best of my abilities. So when I do make it there, I'm ready to go and compete and get a lot of wins for the Yankees.
You talk about it being your dream, and it hasn't quite come to reality yet, but you've taken all the steps here. When did the dream become a reality? Like, when did you get a sense that you've been blessed with God-given talent, you put the work in, that, I grew up wanting to play in the NHL, but I knew by 12 that it wasn't going to happen for me. When did you get a sense that, hey, I might be able to make a go of this?
I think it was probably around, I had just finished up the 8th grade. I was picked to play at the Canadian Future Showcase in the Rogers Center that the Blue Jays run every year. I'm the youngest person to ever make it. I was the youngest person there. And then the following March, I had made Team Canada as a 14-year-old on the 18U national team. So I think early on, I was like, oh, I can really do this. And then I just continued building off of it, kept working hard, hitting the weight room, doing my throwing programs, my recovery, all that stuff, and just kept building, competing, and was never satisfied with what I had done in the past and just wanted more and more and more. So I think, the early on thoughts that I could do this was probably 13, 14 years old. And then I just kept going, and now I'm here now. So it's pretty good.
You also pitched for the Langley Blaze, a story program that produced a number of major leaguers and first-round picks, Brett Laurie, Kellen Declan, and others. A word or two on what the Blaze have meant for your career, Sean, as you've made your way up the ranks.
Yeah, they've just been awesome. Jamie Baudelet and Doug Matheson, the owner and the head coach of the 18U team, have been awesome. I wouldn't be here without them. They've got me into the right showcases, got me the right looks I needed, never overused me or anything. Always had my best interests at heart. And also my pitching coach, Kyle Lotzgar, who I work with very closely. Kyle's been amazing with my mechanics, my weight training, all of it has, those guys have made me who I am today, and I'm super grateful for them, and they've been really awesome in my development.
It's a pretty good-looking signing bonus. Have you treated yourself yet? You have any plans for some purchases coming down the road here, Sean?
Maybe. I haven't quite got the there's some stuff that has to happen behind the scenes. I have to get a work visa and stuff, but I've been looking. Maybe I drive a 2013 Honda Civic, so probably going to upgrade that a little bit, and help out my parents. My brother and sister they're starting high school in September, so probably try and hook those two up with some laptops or something. So yeah.
Outstanding, Matt. Well, we're delighted for you. Jeffy's been compared to Jeff Francis and some of those great BC Argos of 20 some years ago. The best pitching prospect out of British Columbia in a couple of decades, for sure. We're really excited to track your progress through the minor leagues here, Sean. We wish you all the best with the Yankees and hope to see you on the mound someday at Yankee Stadium and maybe down the I-5 here at T-Mobile as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center, this fabulous Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee. Tickets secured, hotel solved. Make the Wall Center your downtown headquarters for every big game, concert, and rivalry night. See what's happening at wallcenter.com. Parked here last night, walked to Rogers Arena so easily. It's downhill, too.
What about on the way back?
Well, you burn the calories of everything
course,
you've eaten at the event.
Yeah. I noticed, speaking of the studio.
Yes.
The soccer ball.
We're slowly winding down. We've left the two
It's like
hats
putting
in.
the Christmas tree away.
Yeah, it is like that. You're right. Yeah, slowly winding. When did they? They haven't taken down.
Science World is staying for a little while.
Is it?
But just about everything else
Yeah.
is just in our memories now.
Well, other kind of football is in the news. BC Lions are back at BC Place, and they get in before the Whitecaps. That's the good news. 4:00 kickoff against the 2-4 Toronto Argonauts, which is also good news. We'll call them a patsy, given where the Lions are, but they are alongside each other in the overall standings. Here's the bad news. Health continues to be a problem. Look at the injured list, and look at the far right column there. The outs are
a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Stanley
bodies.
Thompson and Patrice Rene are available. Yay. Not to downgrade them, but
Going to be asked to play all three phases.
yeah, exactly. It's like 9-man football here. Notably Nathan Rourke, of course, but there's a lot of other important players there. Javon Katoy, of course, is a Stanley Berryhill, Levi Bell. Like, I don't know.
It's the CFL. We know, it doesn't really matter until Labor Day or whatever the case. It's a small league, but how far behind can they fall? They've got to find a way to grind out a win or two with Nathan Rourke on the shelf. And I don't know. I don't know if that's and they have one win with him in their lineup, and that's going to be the challenge here. So
these old guys too
Chase
on
Price.
defense. I saw Gary Peters was out again. He practiced in full 2 days ago and then couldn't go. So I guess he was just really trying to test it, and ultimately it was a no. And Chase Price.
they keep saying weeks, not months for Rourke. So yeah, that's good news. But even if it's 3 weeks, can they get a result or two just to sort of stem the bleeding until they get their star quarterback back?
Well, this would be the one, right?
It feels like it. Yeah.
Like if you've got the historic playing on fumes kind of game, like this would be the one against a 2-4 team from Toronto. Also of note, they don't have offensive tackle Dejan Allen because they've released him. And that's interesting given what we just told you about their health. Like, and he's had tough health. He's a former Argo, incidentally. He doesn't get to face his old team. He's a former CFL outstanding lineman with the Boatmen. Never got into the swing of things. He was on the 6-game injured list last year for the Leos. He doesn't even last 2 seasons in the end. So, that says a lot that this team with injury issues is releasing a guy with that resume.
Yep. No, it caught me off guard as well. So they must have a plan.
Exactly.
I hope they've got a plan.
We're not in the room, so hopefully they've got this thing sorted. Seahawks get on the practice field tomorrow to start training camp. NFL season starting to be not too far away. And by that, I mean it's 6 weeks away. It's still a long time. It's an interminable camp and preseason. But now they are also dealing with an injury concern-ish. Nicky Manwari, what they hope will be super sophomore, is on the physically unable to perform list. They snuck him into arthroscopic ankle surgery sometime not too long ago because he was doing all the OTAs.
Yeah.
But then obviously he felt something he didn't like, so they snuck him in. They say he'll be ready for week 1. Excited about that, but he is so important. He was such a revelation last year as a rookie. They can't afford to start the season without him, really.
No, and we talked on Wednesday a little bit about this. Now there is some clarity of the nature of the injury at the very least. So, I'll take them at face value that, with today's medicine, that he can be back and ready to go for week 1. But you just wonder about anybody in any sport if he's not available for training camp. We know the NFL preseason guys don't like to take part in an awful lot of game action. So
sophomore probably not.
He'll be okay in that regard. But it's all a question of can they get him up and running and ready for the first week of the season.
I remember it wasn't 100% for the Super Bowl, but was able to make it work. And it was an ankle there. Twice he battled ankle injuries last year. In the NBA, the decision, in quotes, not quite what it used to be, not the pomp and circumstance, and neither is the contract. LeBron James has signed his new deal. It is a 2-year, $8 million total deal to play for the Philadelphia 76ers. And what he does say will be his last decision. Now, the way it's being interpreted is he didn't necessarily say it's his last contract. I think we can guess that it probably is, but he did say it is his last team. It's not a legally binding statement, but okay. 24th season coming up. And my question is, and everybody's saying the right things, Joel Embiid seems excited about it. The contract is team friendly, but is the player. He just sucks so much energy out of every place that he goes. He is a black hole of attention. And
which is, to your point, that, the decision, and we all remember the sit down, and for this just to come out on a Friday morning, middle of July, I still thought the person and the player would try to make this a bigger event than a Shams tweet that he's taking his talents to Philadelphia.
Yes. Shams also intimating he may not move. He's living, his main mailing address is New York.
Oh, I thought you meant from L.A.
Oh, no. His off-season address apparently is in New York, and he may just commute.
As one does.
Now, if he was like making $30 million a year still and doing that would look particularly poor. The fact that he is taking a team-friendly deal, it's a little less obnoxious to live elsewhere, not invest in the city, but it still probably will hit some 76ers fans and residents the wrong way.
And of course, the Miami Heat play a role in the LeBron story. Props to them. There was the report over the weekend that leaked that they were preparing for the announcement of his return, and then they said, no, that was, well, clearly they weren't putting together a press conference or a press release because he's not going to Miami. LeBron and Philly, that's going to take a little time to wrap your head
really will. Decent starting five now, though, if he's decent with Embiid and Jaylen Brown included in that, but we'll see. In his latter years, he has not exactly been leading his team to glory. Baseball news and the possible dismantling, most likely dismantling of the Blue Jays is getting closer despite a win. Shane Bieber was outstanding in 7 innings as the Jays snap a 4-game skid. But just add him to the list of possible Jays on the outs now because of that fabulous. He's going to grab attention with that. Bieber, Gausman, Hoffman, Scherzer, and more. It could be quite the sell-off. And as the headline here says, it's hard to believe they were minutes away from a World Series. Couple of outs. And then less than 9 months later, it could be completely dismantled.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been startling individually and collectively, and to see them scuffle and to score runs. It's just been such a challenge for a team that, led by Vladdy, and obviously he's been a huge part of the problem this year. But, run generation was never an issue.
No.
And so...
So they concentrated on pitching in the offseason. Yeah. They do that, and the hitting is so bad that the average pitching, and the pitching hasn't been terrible, but it's been average at best, is not nearly good enough. They would need to be all Cy Young winners, and that's not happening. So, man.
Next 10 days are going to be really interesting there to see how much work they can do, offloading some of these guys to try to build it back up again.
And I feel like baseball, here's the good news. I feel like baseball rebuilds can be quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can get hauls for guys at the trade deadline. And then that becomes currency for either a deal that you flip down the road or those players just mature. We've seen it. The Vancouver Canadians that have graduated so quickly, like Trey Savage to the Blue Jays organization, it shows you, like, those players can mature into real players pretty quickly. So, we'll see what the future holds here for the Blue Jays. Speaking of the season, I wasn't too far from them the other night when I was down in Portland. They're still down in Oregon. Dropped an 8-5 decision to the Hops last night. Still above 500, though. And they're only 2 games back of first. The second half standings are packed right now. Very, very tight. But they're only 2 games back. So playoff baseball at Nat Bailey, still very much on the menu if they can win the second half. The next homestand begins on Tuesday, incidentally. Nooner next Friday, of course. And on August 1st, this is always a fun night. It's country night with a hat giveaway. You won't want to miss it. Nat's turning 75 this year, celebrating all season long. 75-cent hot dogs on Tuesdays as a result. And new at the Nat this season is the triple O's on the concourse. Get your tickets now. Call 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com. Poll question from yesterday. Do you want to see, or from last show, do you want to see a long-term contract extension for Zeev Buium? Which I think, because of the wording, made it, do you like Zeev Buium?
Right.
Rather than actually going through the exercise of a long-term contract versus more of a bridge deal, if they can make that work. 90%.
Yeah, everybody would love to see a long-term contract, $5 million or it doesn't quite work that way. That's the problem here, is that a long-term deal is going to cost the Vancouver Canucks a bunch. And are they prepared to make that commitment? Are they writing checks these days? And, on the surface, it looks like maybe not. And perhaps that's the reason he doesn't have a long-term contract.
What do you think representation for Zeev Buium is saying to him? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, he's a Kurt Overhard guy. I would say we're seeing it around the NHL that some of these young guys, so whether it's a Conor Bedard, but there have been others this summer, they see the landscape. Their agents see the landscape. Why lock into 8 years? If you believe in yourself, bet on yourself, bet on the player, 3 years, 5 years, and then go right back in. And by then, who knows, is the cap up at $130 million? You're 3 years along in your development. If you're starting to become the player that you think you're going to become, then you can step into the batter's box and knock it out of the park. So I think, it's not a coincidence that we're seeing some of these younger guys coming off the LCs going shorter, where before it was, get the bag as big as it is, 8 mil or 8 years rather, lock yourself in. And I also think teams like Chicago and the Canucks, these players are like, I don't know if I want to be part of this for 8 years if they're not going to get off the ground and this rebuild's not going to launch. So, this just builds in some flexibility for these guys.
So it was 90-10 for the easy click, Jeff. The responses, though, wildly disparate. Josh the Zamboni guy, lock him up for as long as possible, as soon as possible. S, wonder what's taking so long. Van City Prospects, they just got to do it. Then there's Phil. Seriously, what has he done yet?
26 points last year.
You hate me. That's the address.
Okay.
If they get DuPont, there is literally no need for him. But people don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, now that's putting the cart way before the horse here.
You don't have that guy yet.
But I understand that line of thinking, but a lot has to happen for Landon DuPont to land in the Vancouver Canucks lap. So, to your point, yeah, I think people like Zeev Buium. They like the player. They certainly like the person. The organization loves the person. Big-time character, all sorts of personality. Could easily become a face of the franchise here if his game lives up to the billing of a first-round pick. And he just turned 20 in December. He's still so young. And there's been lots of signs that, this guy is on the right track. But ultimately, a 26-point season in his first year in the National Hockey League, there's a lot of room to grow as well.
And then there's the obvious question from Flashy. Does ownership want this? With news, they're looking to shave off another $20 million from the cap. Not another $20 million, $20 million in total, but they're getting close to that number. I just don't see them spending long-term anymore. The difference,
part of that too is if you're going long term, so much of the payment is a lump sum up front, right? Like we're seeing so many guys get big signing bonuses right off the hop, and that's my bigger concern is, how liquid are the Vancouver Canucks to be able to write that kind of check right here, right now?
Even though the investment is really for the future in that deal. Like let's say you signed it to a 7-year deal, you're really signing it now, but for the benefit of years 4 through 7 in the contract. So it's a good investment, but you're right. If the liquidity just isn't there, that gets tricky. Errors and omissions?
Yes. Can I step in here? Because you
may.
Weren't.
I was going to say nothing to report. Do you
no. And
Oh.
Mike, jump in here and back me up because I let the first one slide, but
You did.
there were multiple Blake references on Wednesday as the other host looked me in the eye.
He called you Blake.
At least twice, yes.
Several times.
Is it when he was disappointed or arguing with you? Because he says that I do that with my son's name on him when I'm disappointed or scathing him.
Yeah, I can't recall. I'd have to go back and rewatch. But the first one I let slide because that happened.
Really?
But there were multiples, and Mike even made mention after the show. He was like, there were a couple there. I was like, yeah.
Interesting.
Mark them down.
He wasn't willing to admit it to me, but I'll take it up with them. There you go. Our 1 or 2 errors and omissions from last show. We are back with you. Enjoy your weekend, folks. Even though I think it's going to be a little bit gloomy, although we need the gloominess in the forests. We will be back with you on Monday to recap a big weekend in sport, particularly for the 2 tenants of BC Place in their differing places of play this weekend. So we'll recap all that on the other side of the weekend. Enjoy the next 2 days, and make sure you do support all the fabulous sponsors that make this show work. Keep it local.